Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 5th day of our Canadian webinar series. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Friday. Last I checked, the Toronto Raptors were up 15 points and well on their way to their 3rd straight win. So it's everything should be good there in Canada. So joining me today is Heather Rentz. Heather is an innovation coach in Alberta. She is a workspace extraordinaire. Some may even say savant. And so, Heather, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with us.
No problem. Thank you so much for the invite. I don't know if I'm a savant, but I'm a workspace lover.
It works for us. I officially declare you a savant. So
Thank you. Love it.
Now that you've presented. So Heather's at her cabin. So there's thunderstorms rolling through. So if we have any sort of technical difficulties or she freezes or anything like that, it's because it's a live action show and you never quite know what's going to happen. So, but we're crossing our fingers.
That's right. Yeah, it's been nothing but like 30-degree temperature. Not sure what that is in the States, like above 80 and beautiful. And then I wake up to this morning to thunderstorms. I'm like, no, but
you need that every once in a while. Otherwise, it's just too perfect, right?
Well, I'm not missing any beautiful lake weather right now. This is perfect.
Perfect. So Heather, how long have you been using Hapara for? What drew you into it? Talk us through your experience so far.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about the history of it because my role started in 2014, but through the work of Sai Saisana, who was an ed tech for our division, he brought in Hapara as a pilot. And some of the schools in our division were piloted, and the school that I was working on was not piloted. So I didn't know anything about it till 2014 when I jumped on board as an ed tech with him. And then I was just blown away with it. I was also a little bit mad with Sai because he didn't choose my school. I had multi-grades, I think grades 2 to grade 6, and we were new to Google, so I was very excited and the kids were excited. And I probably had 300 shared student drives with the kids where we had to make sure that just sharing permissions were set. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, if I just would have had Hopper, it would have been so much easier. So that's where we started. So in 2014, it was a soft rollout. We brought in some of our power teachers that we knew that would love it. And then from then on, it has just catapulted. It has been such a huge uptake. There's some people that are still learning how to use it and excited to get into the Hapara Champion Educator program. But yeah, the last year has really driven our Hapara use.
Oh, that's great to hear. And you know, you guys actually kind of adopted it in a way that we see a lot of school districts and schools adopt it, which is, you know, starting with that pilot, finding the internal champions for it and the people who are, you know, who are going to jump in right away and start using everything. And then slowly over a, you know, 2 to 3 year period, we see, you know, the other teachers kind of coming along. COVID has rapidly excelled that in a lot of school districts. So that's, you know, that's made things a little more interesting. And so when did you get into using Workspace then? Because you know, I know that you said you had an interesting collection of students, so I'm sure that the differentiation piece there played a factor.
Yes, as Sai and I work together as educational technologists, we always use pedagogy as our driving force. So what we would do is we would meet with teachers and we would always have an idea in mind prior to meeting with the teachers, and then we would kind of have a skeleton plan drawn up in Workspace. And that way it just started to draw our teachers in, and it was a scaffolded approach to work with them in the classroom with the students. And then from there, our teachers became trainers of the other teachers in the school, and it was just amazing. Another way that we really were able to promote the use of Workspace was through professional learning. Everything that we did, it wasn't just learning about Hapara. If it was a call to do read and write for Google, if it was a call to learn about coding, or just even like tips and tricks in Google, we always came prepared with a Hāpara Workspace and then loaded our staff members in as learners. We started that really, really early, and that was probably our biggest into many teachers' classrooms, when they could use it as a student and experience what it's like as a student, and just to see how streamlined and organized it was. And that was the major adoption as soon as we started using it as professional learning.
I love that. You guys and Ottawa Catholic actually have inspired some of our latest development, which is breaking off and having, you know, professional learning as its own section so that teachers can be put in. So I think that that's a, you know, it's fantastic that you guys used it that way, because there's really no better way to learn it than to jump in and actually be a student in one.
Absolutely.
Now, rumor has it that at some point along your guys' journey, you started using Hapara as well as a way to secure computers for provincial exams and pieces like that, and solved that problem. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
I can. I hope I get all of this information right, but that was actually the work of Sai as well. He is just a mastermind when it comes to solving problems. And what he did is he created test accounts for every school. And so there are exam accounts that were secure. And then through Google Admin, I hope I'm telling you all the right steps. So we went in and we locked down everything. So the students had access to the Hopper landing page. They had access to docs if they needed docs. And I believe everything was turned off unless they were accommodated. Some students had the read-write accommodation to have text read to them. And through Workspace, our teachers and our administrators were able to build a provincial exam. The students would log in, well, actually the teachers would log at the computers and the students would just open it. So there'd be no password sharing, and they would have a random number and they would have no idea when they open up the computer. So they might be 55 that day or 75, they would open it. And then if there was a power failure, if their computer froze, it didn't matter because everything was auto-saved in Docs and then therefore in Workspace, and then it was submitted. It was a real game changer for our division.
That's wonderful. It's a really unique use case for it that I think is fantastic. And I know you guys have had good success with it. Really no need for it this year thanks to COVID, and the world kept turning, right? But no provincial exams and everything was okay. Yeah,
But
no,
we have had a few teachers too that have asked that they have like administer their regular exams this way as well, and we've accommodated them that way as well, as long as they make sure to keep everything clean and keep the passwords private, everything secure. There's a few teachers that have been wanting to do that as well. So it's not just our provincial exams.
I like it. Yeah, and we've got a number of schools too who will use highlights, lock everything down except for, you know, a single Google Doc or something like that, you know, and students can turn their computers on and off all they want. It's still going to lock them only into that one piece. So we've made life more challenging and for the student, I guess easier for the administrator and the teacher though.
Absolutely.
Now, how many workspaces, you've been a part of the workspace development process in your district, and so about how many workspaces do you guys have now? Because I know you had a big undertaking where you were trying to do one for every learning outcome, isn't that right?
Well, I would have to look, but I think our number is over 2,000. I'm not sure. I know that like back in, I want to say April or May, Nora, the project manager, sent me a list of it, and I just couldn't believe how many that we had. And at the time, they weren't all public, but then I don't want to jump ahead in where we're going to go, but many of our teachers still had them set to private so that only they could see them, and then they could add their co-teacher. And so after talking to some of the teachers and knowing what they created, we would reach out to them and say, like, why don't you have this public? It's amazing. And as many of our teachers are in Alberta and Canada and around the world, some of them just felt it wasn't good enough. And I'm like, just get it out there. It's amazing. And so I don't want to say that that's where the Sharing is Caring initiative started, because it started many, many years ago. But that's kind of the grassroots of it, when we realized that many of our teachers had these great resources that weren't quite yet public for either our teachers in our division, our province, our country, or even for teachers around the world.
Well, and that was what made, and the initiative very much was started in the heart of Buffalo Trail. And what makes it so unique and amazing is this, that you came together and your teachers came together with all this amazing content and put it out there and made it available. And then through some effort, we've been able to get it aligned to the different provincial curriculum standards and different learning outcomes. But is it just a reflection of the district and your leadership and kind of how your teachers work that this all came together? Like how not every school district is as open to sharing and pushing things out.
Well, that's what I kind of was hoping that we could lead into is, well, like I said, the sharing is caring became official this year, but we've always been a district that has worked together. We've done so many collaborative projects, and because we're rural, we have to reach out. Some teachers are the only grade 1 teacher. Some of the teachers are the grade 1 to 3 teacher, the grade 1 to 6 teacher. And so working collaboratively has been something that Buffalo Trail has always been like one of our major pushes. And we just, it's amazing when we ask teachers to get on board with things and come up with our ideas and plans of what they're willing to do, or get talking to some of them and find out what they're already doing and we already don't know. So I would say overall, we are a division that shares. There's no hoarding your lesson plans or hoarding your units. Like even back when I joined our organization in 2001, I had a teaching assignment that I never had before, and the teacher's like, here's everything I have. And that's just the feel of our division, and that's how it's been from the very, very beginning.
That's fantastic. And I've gotten the opportunity to talk to a few of your teachers this week within the district, and that kind of attitude just seems to radiate out through what they're doing. It's inspiring to talk to them because the work that they do is remarkable, and especially in such a rural setting where they're able to get such exposure for the students. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and we've just had tremendous leadership in our senior admin who has pushed us along to be a really, really collaborative division. We've done all kinds of projects together as teams. And, like for the most part, it is very exciting to watch and see all the things that we've done over the years that we start to maybe forget about or to bring back. But we are just, oh gosh, it is amazing to work for a division where people are caring and want to do what's best for our students.
And you know what? It's going to have an impact across Canada because there's if you go to for those people who are listening who haven't necessarily seen the catalog of courses that are available, if you go to hapara.com/Alberta, there's a catalog of courses there which has so many of those Buffalo Trail courses and then some other ones that were developed that are all aligned to the provincial curriculum there. In time, they'll be aligned to other provincial curriculums as well as, Common Core down in the United States, and it'll be able to help so many people. And I think it's one of those kind of learning aha moments that we had at Hapara, and it was really led by our CEO, Wayne, who's a former assistant superintendent in Alberta, where, it was, we need to tie it to the curriculum. We need to make this available. We need to make it more open and out there because especially in times like now, people are in desperate need of content because we've suddenly asked all of our teachers in a lot of cases to become content creators and not just classroom instructors.
Absolutely. So just speaking to that, because I am a coach for our division, I can't be proficient in every single subject from kindergarten to physics 30. But having everything aligned now has been a lot more helpful. And so I can come in with suggestions for, like I did a Chem 20 with a teacher and I knew nothing about chemistry. I learned along with the students, but with my knowledge of Workspace and her knowledge of her content, we were able to build a workspace together that was something that was not only used in the one school, but she was a distance ed or a virtual teacher, and it was used in 2 different places. So it was just amazing. So now that we can go in and we can see all of the curricular points listed right in the workspace, so much more of the work is done.
Which is just awesome because, when I was in school a long time ago now, it was if there wasn't an econ teacher or something like that, the course just didn't get taught. And now, with technology and what everyone's able to do, there's so much more opportunity for students to be able to explore different pieces and learn about it. Heather, question for you. Since you know, we're looking at right now, you're sharing your screen, which I appreciate, and we're looking at your workspaces. So can you talk us, do you have a couple that you really like that you can kind of talk us through? Because some people who are watching this haven't necessarily seen a workspace, or they don't really know what it means. So I'd love to like walk them through a workspace and then maybe some of the Discover, so that they can see how it's tied to the curriculum and some of the amazing content Buffalo Trail has put out.
Okay, so I'm going to minimize a few things. Tell me if I disappear. We're still good?
You're still good.
And you can still see my screen. Okay, so yes, I am a workspace collector / hoarder, and I can't stop. I've had several discussions with Wayne, the CEO. He'll send me a link and he's like, check this out, and it's amazing. So I have a few of my favorite ones. Some of them are co-created in Buffalo Trail. Some of the ones are ones that I've found, and some of them are from the Discover Workspaces. So I'll start with some of my favorite ones.
Now, Heather, just so you know, I think you have to unpause because right now it looks like your screen's not moving. So I think that we paused your screen, which actually did work. It just continues to show it.
I'm wondering if it's the slower speed. Okay, can you see my labels now?
Yep, there we go.
Okay, good. You're probably like, what are you talking about? And I've got my trash. Okay, I'm getting too clicky. So these are my labels. I've created 82, but I'm gonna go to my favorites. So some of my favorites, because I'm an innovation coach, I like to do a lot of work with STEM and STEAM. So some of these are my favorite ones. So we do a lot of work with coding, and we do a lot of work with robotics. So one of the ones that I absolutely loved was this one, and I wanted to show it to you because so many people feel that Workspace is for junior high students or senior high students, and that students in the younger grades cannot, it's too much for them. And I even said earlier this week when talking about kindergartens and Workspace, if you ever sit down with a kindergarten student, they can build an entire world in Minecraft. So I don't know why you don't think they can't enter an email and a password and get going in Workspace. So this is one of my favorite ones because it was built for grade 3 and the students actually used it. So what we did is we did a little bit of coding, and we learned that through through Tinker. And then we used Makey. What the students had to do was learn how to build a simple circuit. And after they were done building their simple circuit, their next project was to go in and choose their favorite electricity project and work with a partner. And then we all built pianos to learn a little bit more about electricity. And then we moved into what the real learning was. And what we had to do is we had to work together using the design process. And so what the students did is through all the learning that we did with Makey and the coding and Tinker, the students created their own projects. And what they had to do is they had to create some kind of life cycle of a butterfly. And so what some of the students did is they did a drawing, and some of the students made plastic scenes, some of the students made pom-poms, and what they went through is they designed their own understanding. And so what was so exciting about this is we saw so many different projects come from the students. And while they were working on this, everything that they did was through Seesaw to demonstrate their learning, but everything was housed in Workspace. So the students would just pop into Workspace, and then all their links would take them where they needed to go. So it was an incredibly exciting project because not only did it involve the grade 3 class, but it involved the neighboring grade 3 class. And then we brought in the administration to watch, and then it became a whole school thing where the students came in, and it was kind of like a science mini fair. It was really, really fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I loved it. Another super exciting one that we had was with a Sphero robot. And what we did is we built the solar system using Sphero robotics. Now I realize I'm talking about things that some schools may not have access to, but not only was this about learning about the solar system and how quickly all the planets rotated, but this became the most amazing collaborative project that I've ever seen. There's a video at the end where we finally had all of the planets orbiting our sun, which was a yellow gator ball used for dodgeball, and the cheering that went on, and it was so exciting. And this was all built through Workspace as well. The students had to go in and they had to document all their processes. They had to write down their formulas that they were using in Sphero, and it was just amazing to see what the students could do together. So just getting out of some of the coding and robotics.
What I think is interesting there, sorry to jump in, Heather, what you guys do is really interesting, because especially with the grade 3s, I've seen 4 different products. It's Tinker, it's Sphero, it's Makey, it's Seesaw, but you link out to all of those from kind of a central hub. So I'm wondering if Workspace makes it almost easier to use technology with the younger kids, because you're not asking them to go to 5 different websites.
I can't even tell you how easy it is. There's no password remembering. It's just right there. And if like it is like a third-party website where they do have to enter it, you can put their information right into the Workspace. So it's not, they don't have to go out of it. They don't have to remember anything. They don't have to click back and forth. And lots of times for the younger grades, what we do is we just pin their Workspace right to the top, and it's right there for them. Yeah, so it is great for the younger grades, and even some of the older students. They don't want to click through 100 different places and bookmark things. If everything is in one spot, it's much more smooth for many of the students.
And for the teacher, I was talking to a few of your teachers, and they were talking about how they use I think the furthest right column, they put all of their teacher notes into that. So, and then they hide it from the students. So I think that was a great idea as well.
Yeah, so a couple other ones that I pulled out. If you're a 7 Habits school, even if you're not a 7 Habits school, the teachings of Stephen Covey are here, and they are amazing workspaces to get into because it teaches kids all kind of resilience, which is perfect right now as many of our schools are remote. We are not. We are going back to school starting September 1st and 2nd. We have a staggered reentry, but these habits would be a great place for many people to start with at the beginning of the year. It's great, be proactive. The second habit that was created with begin at the end in mind. So there's all kinds of activities. So with the feature of students and groups, you can differentiate. So you can have every student go through each one and move them through at their own pace, or you can assign habit 1 to these 5 students, habit 2 to these 5 students. It really gives you a sense of how you can really customize your workspaces for your class's needs. And you might not even know about your students' needs right off the hop, but it's great for small group interaction as well.
I think that's a great idea. I love Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, but I'm very bad at practicing them, I find. So
I'm good at talking to saw. That's one of my best ones. Yeah, so I also included a Romeo and Juliet if you're teaching high school English. So the reason that I tried to find as many different ones is many of our teachers are finding in the rural school division that they might be trained in teaching social studies, but all of a sudden they have a 10-1 course. And what's amazing about the Discover section is that if you've never taught the course before, it's searchable. And with the Alberta Sharing is Caring, there are 2 divisions that work together. There was us and Horizon, and they're creating a complete catalog. So if you have Physics 20 thrown at you, you will have access to Physics 20 materials. So you can go in, you can make a copy, and then you can customize it however you want. If you're new to grade 6, here's a whole unit on flight. If you are wanting to do any kind of ELA for the younger grades, there's all kinds of different things that you can come up with. Another thing that I found that was fun, which would be a great way to get to know your students, is this Math 30-2, Logical Reasoning with Puzzles. So if you go into that, it is actually one of the concepts that the students need to learn in Math 30-2. So if we look into the workspace, the general outcome is to analyze puzzles and games and then solve problems. So in here, it talks about introducing yourself to the group, which would be fantastic. Even if you're not doing Math 30-2, it would be a great way to have an icebreaker for your students. But you go into these different puzzles. So there's Ken puzzles, which I had never heard of before. There's a how-to. Here's a place to go try one. And then you can upload a screenshot of your completed puzzle if you want. And here's one, I'm probably going to say it wrong. Binario, I don't know. It's some kind of binary puzzle. I don't even know what it is, but it looked really fun.
I wouldn't know either way. So
yeah, so there's lots of fun puzzles in
I
here.
know those puzzles. We're good with those.
Well, and there's all videos to learn how to do it, so it's even perfect. So those are some of my favorite ones, although like I said, I have 100 active ones and I don't know how many archived ones I have. I know I have 15 pages of archived and I don't know how many are on here, but I just can't stop. I just find a great workspace and then I have to save it. But one of my favorite things is that I can go in and I can adapt it however I need to. I can add my own students in group. I can add my own content. I can delete stuff that's not relevant. We are a Google for Education school, so if anything is in there that's not Google, if it's something for Teams or something that we don't use, then I can take that out and put in a Google Doc or a slide or a sheet or whatever I need to put in.
That's awesome. Now, do you mind showing it? So you're, for those people out there who haven't used it yet, they're interested in potentially looking at some of the Buffalo Trail content. How do they do that?
Okay, so let's start by going to Discover. So it is now very streamlined. Before it was just search by keyword and it did have subjects and grades, but now I can go right to Alberta. And I can notice that there are 1,351 search results. So if I needed to teach flight, I could go in and I could teach flight. So here's the one that I pulled as one of my favorites. But if you notice, there's 1, 2, 3, there's all kinds. So these are all Alberta specific. And lots of times we encourage our teachers, and not all of them, but we do get them to label us as BTPS 28, but they're not all done that way. So if I wanted to take one and have a look at it, I can just click on it. And then it gives me a little bit more information, talks about the grades, the science, and then it lets me go into the standards. But I'm going to open this workspace. So what I'm looking at is just the public view. There's no student information. There are some groups that have already been created, group 1, 2, and 3. And if I look through it and think like some of these look really good, I can go in and I can have a look at what one of the Google slides are. And if I think like, yeah, this is perfect, I can work with this, or I can edit this. All I have to do is copy it. So the copying process depends on a few different things. Your speed, which mine might be kind of limited today at the cabin, but also sometimes the size. So if there's all kinds of videos, if there's all kinds of content, like some of the workspaces that I showed you were really long, it just takes a certain amount of time depending on that. So while we're waiting for that, you can also go through and you can search specifics. So if I'm teaching math, let me if I click math, and I'm teaching grade 8. Oh, I've got flight in there still. That's not really mathematical. Well, I guess it is, but not for this. So if I'm teaching grade 8 math, that's right. So if I'm teaching grade 8 math, I already have 76 workspaces that I can teach with. So I have polynomials, I have trigonometry, I have riddles, perfect squares, and I'm not a math teacher, so I don't even know what some of these are, but I can go through and do the same thing before, open the workspace, and I can think, oh, this is perfect, this is exactly what I need, and make a copy of it. Let's see if my other one is done. Or if it's not, you can just X out and you're done with it. Oh, perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to view a copy of this. So I now have a copy of someone else's workspace. And what you'll notice is in the description, it talks about what this is and the outcomes for grade 6 specifically. for Alberta. And some people might teach air and aerodynamics all around the world, so maybe it would work for grade 8. But what I can do is I can go in and I can customize it however I want. I can now make it mine. So I can go in and change anything. I can add sections if I wanted to. And I can go in and make this mine. So if I have students in groups, I've got group 1, group 2, group 3. I'm going to call this teacher. And that way I can make things completely for myself. So I've got group 1, group 2, and group 3. I'm going to go in, and because this is science, I'm going to add some of my mock science students. So I'm going to add mock student 1 to group 1, mock student 2 to group 2, and these guys here. And so what you might have heard about earlier in the week is how you can differentiate and how the students can look to the left and right and they won't even realize that they are doing different assignments all through here. So then as I go, I can go in, and if I want group 1 to only do the properties of air and slides, I can choose group 1. And if I want the air composition for group 2, I can go in here. And then we'll go to group 3, flying things, multi-select that. And then finally, let's pretend that I've got a teacher quiz in here that maybe I'll assign later, or I have an answer key. I can unselect that and put it on teacher. So now you can see that I had different groups. I can go through and I can see what group 1 can see, group 2, group 3, and finally the teacher. So there's all different kinds of things that you can do that the students won't even notice that they have different views. Did you want me to go in and show you what the students would see?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so first I have to publish this. Now I'm going to try to switch profiles, and if I switch profiles, let me know if I lose you. Okay, so I'll see. Here's my test student. Can you still see my screen?
We can.
Okay, perfect. So this is my test student number 1. And this is my student dashboard. I'm just going to reload it because I added them. So right now, they are a part of 2 different workspaces. So the one that I just made, the air and aerodynamics, and then they're also in the Tinker project that I was talking about earlier. So I know that you and Erin went through everything that the students can do, but this is where it will be listed under all their classes. So they can just click in, and then they can see what is assigned to them. So the view that I have and the view that the students have is a little bit different. This only has 3 columns, where when we go back and flip into mine, it shows all 4. But because nothing has been put in the evidence column, it stays blank for them. So just going back to that student view, anything that I have assigned to the students will show up in their student dashboard. And then anything that they need to complete will show up under here. And if there's any files that we have, they'll be there for them as well. So that's a little bit of a super fast overview of how you can customize, copy, and save some workspaces.
That's wonderful. And so, and for the people listening that maybe aren't currently using Hapara, just so they know, in large part because of the efforts of Buffalo Trail and Horizon and the other school districts, districts in Alberta this year can try Hapara completely free of cost. Actually, they can pilot it for the first half of the year, which is amazing. You know, your superintendent Bob Allen actually made that request as a part of this, and so you know it means that they can get access to all of this content and put students in and learn how to differentiate and be a part of the Hapara Champions program for the first half of the year and test out to see if it's a fit for their school district. You know, we're offering it out at no cost because we know it will be a fit for your school district, and so we want you to be able to hopefully continue using it into the future.
Yeah, I can't say how much it would just absolutely change remote teaching. Like if we hadn't have had Hapara jumping into remote teaching, I just can't even imagine what would have happened. There is a lot of merit to Google Classroom, but I am a sole Workspace user. I had a daughter in grade 9 and her teacher used Workspace, and I had 2 kids in grade 6 and their teacher used Google Classroom. And even though we muddled our way through Classroom, having to click and find things, even myself as someone who is like pretty tech savvy, we couldn't find things, or they wouldn't load, or we didn't understand what it was. Where my daughter, who had Hāpara, it was just laid out so beautifully. And the My Student dashboard access that she had, where she knew everything that she needed to have completed, was just so beautiful. And then something that Google Classroom doesn't have is a whole library of resources. Like, to think that I can come into Alberta curriculum, and I've never taught grade 3 before. I've never taught grade 7 before. I've never taught grade 11 before. I got a phys ed class. All of it is there, and it's all in the catalog that is going to be released very, very soon.
It makes a lot of sense for a lot of districts, and I know that money's tight in a lot of places, and across Canada, across the world, with everything that's going on. And and I know Alberta's particularly hard hit with the price of gas these days and that sort of thing. But it's the other thing too, which I find interesting, is the more we work with Buffalo Trail, the more that we learn about the savings that you guys have actually had by using something like Hapara. So for the people watching, if you go to hapara.com/Alberta, there's a calculator on there actually, which will show you kind of the different areas where there are potential, there's room for savings. So it's looking at, there's a cost to the system, but overall there's a significant opportunity for districts to be able to save money in the long term.
That's right. I didn't even think about showing that one. That's the calculator you're talking about right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say they can go, they can go in there and enter their information.
Yeah, and we had some, as every school in Alberta, and anyone who's listening from wherever they are, every division has been hit by cuts, but we had, Hāpara wasn't even, it wasn't even a possibility to think about cutting it. We had to make cuts in other software programs that we use, which is really sad, but it had to go somewhere. But this is just something that we just said, absolutely not. The collaborative feature, the fact that you can add a co-teacher, the fact that you can differentiate, the fact that you can just use it to work together on any project, it was a non-negotiable. It was something that we just had to keep.
I was talking to a tech coordinator right before COVID hit, actually, back in the day where we could still go to conferences and those things, and they said that that they didn't want to get Hapara, and I asked them why, and they said because I've heard that teachers will never give it up. I could never take it away from them. And I was like, well, this doesn't seem like a very good reason not to give it to them in the first place, but.
Yeah, and it's funny that you do mention that, because I also had someone who, I was reading a comment in the Hāpara community, and they said they're not sure that their teachers are ready for Workspace yet. And I would say, yeah, they are. Like, just do a crash course, reach out to us. Catherine and I have created a lot of professional learning just around Hāpara Workspace, and we are sharing people, and we will just give you our workspace so that you can work with your team members as well. We will travel to schools and work with whole schools, and we have been working in collaboration with Ottawa Catholic, and they encouraged us to start our own cohort of Hāpara Champion Educator. And so we trained so many of our teachers. I wish I should have written down the number of how many people went through the course last year, but we started it in February, and we trained, I think 15 people in our cohort, which is a small number to start with. But as soon as teachers started hearing about how powerful the Hāpara Champion Educator program was, it just catapulted. So we're starting our 4th right away next week, and the demand for it, I can't even remember how many teachers we have signed up for it, but for a small rural school division, there's a lot of teachers that think, like, I need to do this, it's time. And it is time, but now it's even more crucial because we don't know what this year is going to look like. We're going to cross our fingers because we are small and rural that we can continue as normal as possible, but you never know. And so if you have your students up and running in Workspace, it's just easy.
Absolutely. And, I'm Canadian, but I'm down in Chicago right now for our American school districts. Canada's handling the virus and everything a heck of a lot better than we are. And so it is, no one knows what it's going to look like. And chances are there's going to be another wave and there's going to be school closures. So the more we can get ahead of that now is even better.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Heather, thank you so much for taking the time to jump on and walk through all of this with us. I just got a text from Wayne, our CEO, who said that breaking news, Ottawa Catholic School Board is putting together a catalog of their courses in Ontario, similar to what you guys did. And so that's just awesome. You guys have kind of led the way, and it's a movement, I think, towards this. And we've, for a long time working at Hapara, we always have believed in the power of Workspace, but people see it as this kind of climb to get into, or this, it takes a lot of effort. And being able to have the courses already there and done, and it's basically like you can go root around any teacher's file drawer and copy whatever you want. It's amazing, and I hope that teachers are able to take advantage of the incredibly hard work, and most importantly, that they continue to share and that they continue to keep the effort going, because the more collaboration that we can have, cross school division, and then hopefully cross province and maybe even cross country, the better.
Mm-hmm. And I am very excited for Alberta, because there's no new school boards that are jumping on as well. And we just can't wait to reach out to say, like, where can we help? Because there's been people that have been helping us along the way as well. And just even the work that we did with Ottawa Catholic, just to give us different ideas and things that we hadn't thought about, and then all the training that's available. We just can't wait to reach out and share our own things as well. Like, to know that we can just keep adding and adding and adding, and it's all relevant content to our teachers. It's just so exciting.
Absolutely, and that once they've copied it, it's theirs. They have it forever. For as long as they've got Workspace, it's theirs. They can do whatever they want to it. They can turn the whole thing pink if they want to. It becomes theirs. And so I think that ownership side of things is important too. But then you gotta share the love like you do at Buffalo Trail.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for taking the time. Happy Friday. I think that the Raptors should have won the game by now, but I haven't looked because we've been having our great chat. So thank you for everything that you do. Everyone who's been listening and sent in questions, thank you. Have a safe weekend. And Heather, you guys are back to school in a week or so, right?
Yes, I'm back to work next Monday. Our teachers are back on Wednesday, and the students are back September 1st and 2nd.
Well, enjoy the end of your summer. It's hard to believe that August is almost over.
Oh, so fast.
But we're back to school. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your time at your cabin.
Thank you, and thanks for having me as a participant today. It was great.
Of course. I think that everyone listening learned a lot. So all the best. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week as we've got even more of these Canadian specific webinars continuing on as we start to look at more of the hard work that's going on around the country.